Hi everyone, welcome along, welcome back to the cave, Nigel's modelling bench, whatever you want to call it. Please hit that subscribe button, please give me a like if you like, and if you really don't like, then hit that dislike button twice. Finally it's come, the corrections video for the Soar Art, this one, the 144th scale Soar Art kit, that one there. It's been a long time coming. I've promised I'm going to do it and then thought, well, I need to do this first, I need to do this first, I need to do this first. You're probably pretty familiar with this kit already because I've done about 27 reviews on it already, haven't I? So with no further ado, let's carry on. But just before I start, I will just say one thing. This isn't rivet counting. I know a lot of people have a bad time getting their head around rivet counters. I've been called a rivet counter in the past. I don't think I'm a rivet counter. I'll give you an example. I think somebody who takes a lot of time and trouble to square up the corners of a panel in the underside wing surface of a 1/72nd scale aircraft is a rivet counter. You know, if it's got like a 2mm radius on it and it should be a square corner, you know, and they put that much work into it, I think that is possibly getting into the realms of rivet counting. However, I feel buying a corrected resin nose for a 32nd scale Revell Phantom is not rivet counting because the kit's nose is a mess. It looks bloody awful. I actually made my own out of a drop tank, but never mind. Yeah, so what I'm talking about is this is like replacing a misshapen nose on a Phantom, or replacing the awful rubber tires and wheels on a old 24 scale Revell kit, car kit, and that's what I want to put across here. If you don't want to do these changes, you're still going to end up with a lovely looking model on all three of the models. If you do want to do these changes, I'm going to show you what I think you need to do and why I think they need to be changed. So please sit back and enjoy, and I'll move on to the bench. Hey, we're back at the bench. Right, this is actually the next day for me now. It's Sunday morning, December the 2nd. I ended up watching Mission Impossible last night on British TV, and then did Smooth's hangout until like 2 in the morning or something, whatever it was. So I didn't get this done. So here we are now, Sunday morning. Gonna get this 1/44th scale corrections video done for you. First of all, the tools, pencil, rule and digital caliper are what I use to do my measurements, do my scaling and everything, and obviously a calculator. And then you also have probably the biggest tool of all is the book, the Gerhard Tau book. I use that pretty much exclusively for everything. I go online and look at a few reviews and stuff, but there's not really a lot to see regarding this gun. There's obviously it wasn't photographed a lot. So without further ado, let's get a move on. So my plan is to do all the kits in the same order, so I'll start from the ground up on all of them. So here we go. This one's we're starting with the track. Two sections of this in the Soar Art 1/44th kit. These are 270mm long each, so you'll end up with a track length of 540mm. The distance between the tracks inside faces is 9.25. So I think for the scale, they're slightly narrow. Although if you want to put this on an N-gauge layout, apparently the inside measurement on N-gauge is 9mm, so you may have some trouble there, but the difference is so small. And the thing is, you're not going to be pulling this around the track as you would a normal loco and cart and wagons, so you may just pull it out of an embankment. I think it would look really cool to have the back of a rail layout, to have this sort of just being pulled out of the back by a couple of diesel engines. I think that'd look pretty incredible. So anyway, and also with the kit you don't get any ends, so you get these great big keys and pegs here that go together to lock these two parts together, but that's what you see on the ends. So you'll need to cut these off and make some kind of end up, or I don't know. I also suggest these sleepers don't look correct. They're far too wide and joined up in the middle without a connecting plate. Some of the tracks were some of the sleepers were connected according to the book, but if they were, they had this plate on them. They wouldn't have ever been one huge length of sleeper. So there's the tracks sorted. Oh, and this one there's no joiners either, so something else to consider. So then we move on to the wheels. Now the wheels in this kit are nothing short of rubbish. I don't know what they were thinking when they made these wheels. If you look at the form on them, they are like a, I don't know what to call them, like a bobbin rather than a wheel. They've got a sort of raised ring around the middle of a wheel, and when you actually try to put them on the track, try and show you here, they're not actually very positive at all. I'm sure when they're on axles they'll be fine, but you know, when has there ever been a rail wheel like that? It's a bit wrong, I think. Not sure about diameter. I don't know what the diameter of the wheels should be on this gun, but you know, I'm not going to discuss stuff I don't know. I'm just going to discuss stuff I do. So then we've got the bogies. These are misrepresented in the kit, as in, for a start, you can see they're represented as one length of 10. In reality, it should be 2 lengths of 5. These are too long. The spacing's incorrect. They're the wrong shape. They have planking all across the top. What else have we got? They're basically wrong in pretty much every way. So the cure here would be to cut them in half. Now what I've done a CAD drawing here, which shows you what I'm talking about here. My 1/144th person here with 2 abdomens is for something else later on. You'll see in a minute. So basically what I've done here, I've looked at the pitch of the wheels, the pitch of 5 wheels, because it should be 2 bogies of 5 wheels, and then the overall length, the distance between the 2 centres of the 2 outer wheels. So the kit, it should be 100.7 millimeters in my world. I found a drawing in the book where it specifies the distance between the centres here as being 8,500 millimeters, 8.5 meters. So from that, I'm scaling, and you know, thinking that the engineers would have kept things as simple as they could. They probably wouldn't have had these axles, I don't know, 157.77 millimeters apart. They probably would have kept it all even. So I'm guesstimating that these wheels are 6 meters apart, and I've backed that up with a lot of photographs, a lot of images, what the kit producers are doing, and basically, you know, just to make it look right from a foot away or 6 feet away or whatever. In this case, a few inches away because it's so small. So I'm working on this being 6 meters, 2 lots of 6 meters, and they're such and such distance apart, which would give you an overall distance from wheel centre to wheel centre of 100.7 millimeters. And I'll back that up with other stuff as well. So you can see, I can line this up here, just ignore the inner 8 wheels, just to look at the last 10, and you can see that those wheel centres line up. So this is what it should be. This is the pattern. So if I take this back down like that now, so you can see it's quite a way out. Your 3 options here: leave it and leave it as it is, and if you do that, you may as well leave the whole rest of the kit, because to my eye it doesn't look right. The end of the rail car is tucked up. If I just show you on this photo, the end of the rail car here, the bogie, sorry, is tucked up way too tight against the actual body of the gun, if you like. And you can see you've got this continuous run of 10 wheels. It stretches out too far at the front, it stretches out too far at the back, and there is a gap in the middle. If you look at any photographs of this gun, you'll see there is a definite gap in the middle, and the 5th wheel in the run should just be visible underneath that. See this upright here? This upright here, the 5th wheel should just be visible underneath that one and that one. Sorry, that one and that one, that's right. So there is a positive gap between them. You've also got, well, I've got this picture. These steps would need some work because in scale they're extremely thick. This, by the way, this is the actual model built up. So yeah, there's one aspect. So your options: leave it as it is, cut them in half and spread them apart a bit, well, that'll make it even worse, because you'll end up with even sort of longer extensions at the front and back, and I doubt you'd be able to fit them underneath the main frame. They wouldn't fit in here. So what I intend to do, and if I do it I'll show you online how I do it, is the kit, the pitch between the two wheel centres is 12.25 millimeters. It should be 10.4 if you work into 6 meters in 144 scale. So if you can remove a millimeter from each area here and bring these two together, so let me just show you that close up. If you remove a millimeter from here and a millimeter from here, and then stick them back together a millimeter closer to each other, you'll end up with 10.25. So, you know, just under a mil to keep it absolutely accurate. But if you go for a millimeter on each one, then you're going to have a lot of pieces to glue back together, and yeah, put a piece of plastic strip on the back and just go for it. I'm going to give it a go. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, if I balls it up, there's 4 of these. Well, there's 8 sides, four sides, 4 of each side, sorry. So at the end of the day, if I do mess it up, I'll have to scratch build one or take a mould off it or something. But I think it's doable, and knowing me, I'll probably make a jig for it. So there we are. That's that part of the rail car sorted. So once you've done that, then you're going to end up with your 2 gangs of 5 wheels, 5 axles, 10 wheels per bogie, and you'll have 8 bogies instead of the 4. And just to show you that, so that I'm not talking garbage, when you look at the book, you will see, it's over this page, here you go, you can see there is a definite gap between the wheels where the pitch becomes staggered, and you can see here the dimensions I've worked to. So there you go. So continuing on with the bogies, this is where most of the work is actually, is in these parts here, the bogies, and these are called the subcarriers, and these are called the subordinates according to my book. So that's what I'm going to call them. Yes, so once if you've done this work and you've got these right, then obviously the whole thing is going to be shorter even if you put them together. So this will have to need to be cut in half. This is the top that goes on like so. So there's pegs in the back that fit into slots in here. So this fits on. The engineering in this kit, by the way, is fantastic. It's designed so you can't go wrong. I mean, look at that. You cannot put that the wrong way around because the pegs don't line up. So Soar Art have done a great job there of engineering this kit so you can't go wrong. They've also got different shaped holes and different shaped pegs on all the tops of them and the subcarriers, and then they've got different shaped holes in here, so you can't actually misassemble it, or each one of these has its relevant position of the 4. So that's a big positive for this kit, and great for the younger members among us. Something I don't understand is why they've done this. I've left this sprue on here because I may need it for when I start to cut it about. They've planked it all the way along, which is incorrect. It should only be planked up to about here, I believe. The planking was just there for men to walk on and let rubbish fall through or whatever, so they could get some grip. This all back here would have been metal. I can show you that here. If we look at the book, you can see that there is no planking here. There's no planking here. The planking is on the front. If I can see a picture here, here you go. This is looking down from the top of the gun. You can see there's planking here where the men are stood, but the planking disappears once it goes underneath the subcarrier here. These guys here are stood on the front of the subcarrier, so that's there like that. And you can see that here this is actually mesh and you can look through, although on this kit, obviously because of its scale, it's not mesh, it's moulded plastic. If you really want to go to town, you could replace that with some PE mesh, but you'd have to make the frame underneath and everything. So there we go. So yeah, the planking's there, it shouldn't be there. And then what you need to do is make sure that the pivot, this point here, the pivot point, is over the center wheel. So you've got 2 lots of 5 wheels. The center wheel is where that pivot will be. Now you can see that it's actually correct in the way it's made now, but once you move it all together, it won't be. So get rid of the planking after you've cut this down and split it into 2, and then you won't have to deal with all this end planking here. That's what I was going to show you. So I don't know why they've done this. They've made it so that the planking, if you look, carries onto the outside edge, meaning you've got a joint to deal with in the planking. Why they couldn't make this slightly wider and have this gluing underneath, I don't know. It would have been a lot stronger as well. So there's that part dealt with. On the subordinates, on the subcarriers, there should be a metal bracket here which sticks out. It's quite obvious when you see it in this picture here. You can see this metal bracket. So that's something you could add in. And also these parts here are a lot more pronounced than they're actually shown on here. So that's something you could do some work on if you wanted to, and that'll make it really pop with the dry brushing and the washing and things. I don't know about washing. I've actually washed this kit in soapy water and it still feels oily, so I don't know what's going on there. I have to try and experiment on it with some paint, see how the paint takes. Perhaps try and perhaps spray some ammo by Mig on there, eh? It definitely won't work if it's greasy. Okay, so right, I've covered all that with the bogies, planking all the way along, subcarrier. Oh, the subcarrier is too high, I believe. If you look at the way it sits on here like this, I think the gap in here is too big. Maybe like really easy cure, just sand some of this down. But when you actually look at the model, it does look like it's slightly too high, in my opinion. It could come down a touch. So, but that's up to you. More on that later as well. So, so we've covered all of that. That's all the rail cars dealt with and the subcarriers and everything. Okay, onto the subordinate area. This is shocking. This is quite shocking. You've got an inner and an outer area here. Okay, where do I start? These here are supposed to be hydraulic jacks, and they are supposed to be sat there. They look very much like large oxygen cylinders, and they are supposed to, there's the top of it there, and then it goes down, and it's supposed to come down onto a foot at the bottom. There should be a triangular cutout section here that you can see through, and these feet should be split up into 3. So you've got one pair here. The other thing is they shouldn't be spaced like this. They should be equispaced. So you've got 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, each forming on a foot that actually goes down into the track and sits on the track. If you look back at my book review, I explain it in there. But then on the inside, they've actually spread they've got 4 on there instead of 6, and they've spread them apart. Now, why on earth they would have a hydraulic jack depicted as going down onto the top of because basically this will be under here like this. Why would they have that? So if you check your references, you'll find that that is not actually the case. And on one of the other kits, this actually causes quite a big issue. So this is incorrect. Now, you may decide to leave this like it is because there's a footway that goes along here, a walkway and a railing. And then, of course, once it's all assembled, you'd have these 2 parts together. Are you actually going to see it? Are you, you're not, are you really? But you may decide to change it. You may decide to leave it. It's going to be a lot of work to change it, but you may think it's worth it. There's also the issue that these hand wheels should continue on down here, and there should be structure here. So if you look on this side, there's structure here continuing, but it gets very, very soft. That should be the same on the inside. So yeah, and the hand wheels, you see they continue right to the front and the back, and they haven't done that on the inside, whereas it should be there. Having said that, there's a lot of stuff going on here and here, so a lot of that will be covered up anyway. And in 1/44 scale, I don't know. All of this on here, this kind of dot to dot pattern, is totally fictitious. But, you know, like I said in my talk about 3 videos ago, this is really about stuff you're going to notice from a few feet away. Certainly the bigger kit 6 feet away. You know, all of this, you could take it with a pinch of salt, you could change it, but it's certainly nothing like what they've shown on here. But they've put some detail there, so, you know. What would I do here? I'd possibly be tempted to just move these around a bit, perhaps add some wire and stuff to get some detail in there. I would definitely put the slots in to give you the 6 separate, the 3 separate feet, and maybe consider drilling through to give some looking through, because that's what it's like in real life. I hadn't planned to look at this here, but you can see this is on the inside, and that's not a fantastic shot, is it? This is probably a better shot of it here. We've got, here are the jacks. This is the outside face. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jacks, and they're going on to separate feet. Right, here you can see, here are the jacks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down there, and you can just make out down here there's these sections here which are cut away in between the jacks, and you can see here the detail around this area with all the raised eye sections, and you can see the pipe work in behind there. And if I go over the page, you can see more of it here. Where were we? Again, a good look at this book. You can see here the sort of detail that was in behind there, in behind those railings and everything. And there's some close-up of it there, look. So, yeah, I would definitely put some detail down here, split these jacks up a bit, and improve the look of them, because you can see this is like a cylinder here that's working on a jack, and in the kit they're just lumps of plastic, and all that dot to dot stuff is all fictitious. It should just be pipe work and wheels and stuff. Right, what I'm going to talk about now is possibly getting into rivet counting, but you may wish to do it. I think it would make a hell of a difference to the appearance and the sharpness of the kit. You see these vertical members here, they are all depicted by lumps of plastic due to moulding restrictions and everything. They were actually, if you look in the images, you can see here, where are we? You can see here that it was actually an eye section, so you would need to put a piece of plastic card over what's already there to give you the appearance of the actual eye section. You can see it here as well, and actually in here you can see it in pretty much all the photos really. You've got this eye section going down that sticks out a lot further than they've got depicted in the kit. But then, like you say, in 144 scale, I don't know, a wash, bit of shadowing and a dry brush would probably make it fine. Another thing of note on here, if you look, there's all sorts of hatch detail and stuff going on here that should be there, and it's not. The holes are there, but there's no hatch in there or anything, so that would be fairly simple to add, I think. You can see it there. What else have we got? Oh, here we go. This is quite a biggie. This, I think, is probably one of the biggest errors in the kit, and I think it'll stick out like a sore thumb to anybody who knows what they're looking at. These are the rear boxes. These are boxes that go in between the 2 sections, like so. So that one would go on there like that, and then the next one would come up to it like this, yeah, and then you'd have another one at the front. Now what they've done is they've given you 2 rears, and what I'll show you here, they are different. This is the rear. Here it says, you can see it says Hinton on it, which is rear. That means linking platform, I think, link or Traeger. No, that's left, sorry, left platform, rear. So this actually would be bolted into one side, and then another one would be bolted into the other side, and then they'd be bolted together. So here you can see this is one of the rears, this is one of the fronts. You can see this Vaughan front, Hinter rear. So that is correct at the rear, but it's incorrect for the front. So if you're fussy about your accuracy, look, this is looking front on, the gun barrel would be here sticking out of the book. So if you're fussy about your accuracy, this is going to be pretty visible on the finished model. So you might want to scratch build that. It should be fairly simple to make that with some plastic card. Even modify what you've already got. But no, that piece there goes in there and fits square in the sides, it's square on the front. It's just a large rectangular object, and you can see here there's one actually fitted, and this one's hanging on the crane ready to be bolted on. So and then they would have wheeled the two together and then bolted them together. You've got these two clamps, the front and back, that hold everything together. This system here holds the two sides together, and then you've got these blocks that are bolted together that hold everything. So so yeah, they've made a bit of a mistake there. And of course the other thing is that the box should be here, not all the way up here. So putting these jacks the way they have, they've actually forced themselves to put this incorrect front box, or incorrect rear box, placed at the front right up here, whereas it should be way back here and half the width. So, you know, there's another reason for doing something with these jacks. The position of the rear one I haven't actually looked at, but we should be able to see it here. And yes, that one also you can see. Here's the end of the rail car, end of the bogie here, and then there's the block there. So this should actually be here rather than back here. So it should be further up. So the whole thing is sort of spread out. Whether you wish to change that or not, that's up to you. Okay, so now we're going to look at the barrel. So here's the gun on its rails being moved into position. Here's the gun firing. Here's the gun firing. Here's the gun with the barrel raised. Here's the gun again with the barrel raised. Here's the kit barrel. Do you spot anything different? It's so bloody long, it's difficult to get on the screen. It is way too long, and it seems like what's happened, it would appear that in the specifications for the gun, the barrel is quoted as being 32 metres long, I believe, 32 or 34. Anyway, it calculates down in 144 scale, it calculates to 222 millimetres overall. So this part here is 63 millimetres, which means this part here needs to be around about 158. Yes, so 222 millimetres. This is 63, so we need this barrel. Sorry, this is about 65 because this part here is represented on the actual gun barrel itself, whereas it should be a part of the. This is what I call the breech. I may be wrong, but yeah, it should be part of the breech. So this is 65, which means this should be 150, 157, 158 to give you 222. So what I've done, I've looked at it, and proportionately there's a lot that needs to be cut out of it. So I'm going to show you here what I think needs to be done. This drawing will appear in all three of my reviews because basically it includes all of them. They all have this, all three kits have the same issue with the barrel. So this line here on the left hand side, square this up because if you want to pause it and have it on your screen then you can. This line here on the left hand side is this point here. Okay, it's there, it's not back here, it's not the end of the barrel because that flange is part of the breech. Is that the breech? That's what I call the breech. So basically, in scale, this drawing is drawn to the scale of this gun, 144th scale. So you can see what I've done here. Hang on a minute, let me get this all lined up for you. So you can see the shaded parts of the gun are what need to be removed. Let's see if I can bring you in a bit. Is that better? There you go, guys. So the shaded part of the gun is what needs to be removed. So I've written across here, if you ignore these numbers below, these are dimensions for 144th scale for your gun. So 24.5 millimeters from that point there, make a line. 31 millimeters, make a line, remove that section. 47.5 millimeters to the end of that part there, remove it. The difference between these two diameters isn't enough, it needs to be a bigger step in there. Go up to here, this bit here, I don't know where they got this from, that is totally fictitious. So from here to the back of this moulding here, remove all that. Remove a section of this area here because this is too long. And then you can cut the end of the barrel off, or another suggestion is, what you could do is remove so much from the front, so much from the back, but it must equal the same amount as this, and that is 44 millimeters. So what I've done here is 20 millimeters off the back, 24 millimeters off the front. But whatever you need to do on this kit, you need to take off that much material to get the correct overall length. And then once you've done that, your barrel will be 158 millimeters long. You're going to have to drill the end of the barrel out again and get your, get the bore correct. I think 800 millimeters is 5.7 millimeters. So you need to bore the end of this out to the correct size. Rifling in this scale, I don't know. This kit doesn't have any rifling in it, the other two kits do. So yeah, I've got here barrel bore needs to be re-established. So that will give you the overall length of 158 millimeters. Now I've put here approximate. That's because I've looked at pictures online, and I've seen a guy has put a guide up online on where he thinks the barrel should be cut, and I agree with him 100%, because when you see it done, it just looks correct. I mean, when you look at this compared to this, when you look at that compared to that, can you see what I mean? Let's try and get this in the picture. I zoomed in, didn't I? Let's zoom back out. That compared to that, you can see this is a big difference. So yeah, so there's your barrel modifications. Right, so I just want to look at some general issues now with the kit. You may think it's nitpicking, you may think I'm rivet counting, whatever, but you know, it's like I said, there's things I think need to be corrected to get an overall correct looking model. And the railings, particularly if you're going to put figures on your model, you're going to have to do this. All the railings are too high. If we assume the railings are going to be 800 millimeters, which would be comfortable to lean on, with comfortable height for, you know, not too tall, not too low, safe and everything. So if we assume 800 millimeters, that means these railings should be 5.6 millimeters high in 144th scale. Well, remember I drew my 144th scale man with two abdomens, or woman might be, or person. You can see the railings are much too high. They're sort of almost level with their shoulders. And again here, you can see almost level with their shoulders. Here, level with their shoulders. All of the railings are too high. Okay, I mean, I know they're upside down, but you know, it's one dimension. So you can see they're too high. So they would all need to be remade. So that's something to be considered. You've also then got the ladders. Now, these ladders here go up the side, and they have the loop on the top, you know, like the safety loop to stop you falling off sideways. Well, they've been moulded solid, so they need to be hollowed out or remade with some brass rod or whatever. They're also quite thick and chunky, and if you look at your man on there, they're probably about the correct size, but they are a bit thick and chunky. There we go here. But then we look at these here, and I believe these are ladders. They're a scale 12 inches wide. I don't quite know what they were thinking there. I mean, if you put your man next to it there, I'm not quite sure that's correct. But anyway, so there we go, there's that. I believe the model sits too high up off the track. Again, let's go back to this photograph here of the actual kit. If you look at the distance here between the track and the bottom of the model, it's way too high. I mean, if you look at it here, you can see it's practically, well, it probably is on the ground now because it's ready to fire. But if we look at it in any photo back here, you can see here that it's very close to the track. It's probably a scale millimetre away. So I think that needs sorting out, because that just looks just way off. I mean, lowering these down a bit will give you something, and then lowering the subordinates down onto the subcarriers will give you another bit. But I think they've had to do this because they've got these bogies so bloody long, they can't drop it down in, because they probably built these. What's going on? You know, we've made this to scale and this doesn't fit. So if you shorten these rail cars, these bogies, as I said, you'll be able to drop that down, because then that angle won't interfere. This angle here I'm talking about. So there's that. The kit has no decals at all, which is a shame, because when you actually look at the real thing, it's covered in decals on the rail cars, and the sides of here, it's plastered in white stenciling, and all up on here. Up here, so it's all covered, the manufacturers and stuff, and then you've got your Vaughan and Hinton and Lynx and Rackham and everything. So that's all, yeah, that was all missing, which is a shame. Walkways. I'm being picky here, I think. Walkways are depicted as solid plastic, whereas they should be, like on here, this should be mesh in reality, but they're all depicted as solid plastic. Hey, it's the scale of the thing. I'm not going to knock them for that, but it's just something I thought I had to say. You know, if you're going to town on this model, you might decide to get yourself some fine mesh and replace all the walkways. That would look impressive, because obviously you can see through them all. And there's a pulley system on the rear. I haven't got any parts in front of me, but I can show you here in the instructions. The pulley system is extremely simple. You end up with this pulley just sticking up, and you can see it again down here, there, and you need to add some rope or something. It's a better shot of it there, look. You can see the pulley just sitting there. So you need to add some easy line or something in there, and remember there should be like 4 or 6 lines or whatever, not just one. So so there we have it. So that is the 144 scale Soar Art kit of the Dora, and there are the corrections I think you should do, or not I think you should do, I'm going to do that. I recommend you do, to get a better looking model. Saying that, with all of this, you have to consider the scale. This is 144 scale. You know, a wash, a dry brush, and a nice coat of paint on this, and it'll look great. As a minimum, absolute minimum, I would definitely do the barrel. If nothing else, it'll give you a bit more space on the shelf, because this is a lot. I mean, it's taking 70 odd millimeters out of it. So yeah. The positives, as I've said earlier, the engineering is fantastic. The way this kit is designed, I mean, you can't put these on upside down. You can't get these cars in the wrong hole. They won't physically fit. You know, that you can try and put that peg into that hole, but would you really want it to go that way? No, and it won't fit in there, and it won't fit in there. So that's obviously the wrong one for this subordinate. So that's really, really good. The engineering here, where they got these side pieces fitting on, you know, I would have done it vertically, not on the side, but the way they've done it, you can't actually put the part on the wrong way around. It won't physically fit. So so that's really good. They've given you these railings in scale. I mean, mine are all bent and buckled, but you know, they've gone to the trouble of slide molding all this to get it all correct. It's just a shame they didn't go to the trouble of getting them the right height, eh? But yeah, the engineering in this kit is lovely. Detail's quite soft. Plastic is very oily. And I think this is Star, and I don't think it is ABS. They're 1/35th scale. The older ones are ABS. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you've got the Hobby Boss or the other Soar Art kit, keep your eyes open on my channel. There will be the same thing I'm doing for those kits as well. And I'll also be telling you how much needs to come off, where the changes need to be made, and in some cases how I'm going to go about doing it. But that's all for now, folks. So I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed putting it together, and I enjoyed doing all the research to get there. That was the first of three. That was the 144 scale Dora, obviously. Now we've got the 72nd scale and the 35th scale to do. They're very similar with their errors, but they've gone different ways about it. And you'll also get to see the different ways the manufacturers have gone, you know, about putting the kits together. So maybe you'll be inspired, maybe you won't. I'm going to go and machine up a jig now. I think I'm going to make a jig out of aluminium so that I can cut those bogies up and remake them correctly. We'll see how we get on. I obviously won't show the machining of the jig, but if I actually get around to doing it and get it done, I will show you guys the jig, and I'll show you how I cut them up and how it all works and everything. So I think you'll enjoy watching that, whether you're into this model or not. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. As I say, we've got the 72nd scale and the 35th scale coming, and yeah, nothing more to say really. So bye for now, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.